Can't get the right bit to work. Okay, fine. Fine.
Can't get the right bit to work.
No, I can't get the right bit to work. Can you? I don't know. How does this work? Do you know?
Which bit? How does what work?
I don't know. Anyway, welcome to the show.
Are we just going to go without the right bit working?
Yeah, because if we wait for the right bit to work, I'm afraid we won't get this done. I've told you probably many times that I saw the fabulous Orange Juice live at the Hacienda in Manchester in the 80s. And they rushed on stage and Edwyn Collins went, shall we tune up? Thought not. And then they just played. Wouldn't it be great if all musicians had that attitude? Shall we sound check? Nah. That's really good. Like you would just assume that the first song is there for the sound person to get all the levels right, the lighting person to sort out everything, and the band would work out what they're doing, and then second song, off they go.
Edwyn Collins is such a genius and such a brilliant. There was that other thing when he came on stage. He went, "I'm Edwyn Collins, obviously."
Hasn't he just retired? I think he's just said he's done his last show.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Well, that's very sad, but he's left us behind an absolute, gem of a back catalogue. And they were so great live. They were so exciting. I've never heard anything so jangly in my life. And that the Hacienda, the sound in the Hacienda was always horrible because the Hacienda was like built of concrete. It was really, really. They were the only band that sounded better because like all the sound was banging off all the walls and it was just sounding great.
How is it possible for like a gig venue to have notoriously terrible acoustics?
I know. Well, of course, it wasn't a gig venue, was it? It was like it was the entirely the wrong. There was a famous article in the NME when the Hacienda was taking off. When it suddenly started because at the first, I joined it in '82 and there was nobody there at all. And there was an article which said the Hacienda is booming. Brackets. No, we don't mean the sound system.
Okay, that's very good. So let's say hello to all the good sound engineers out there who are thinking that our idea of using the first song for a sound check is, I don't know, maybe they'd be fully supportive because it would save them time, or maybe they would think, no, the band will come on and sound terrible.
Yeah.
Let's hear it from sound engineers. Correspondence at kermode.com. What are you going to be reviewing later on in this here podcast?
A packed and very, very varied show. We have The Carpenter's Son, which is a kind of religiously inspired, is it a horror movie? We have Sisu, Road to Revenge.
Hang on, can I just ask? Sorry to interrupt.
That's fine.
So is it that Carpenter we're talking about?
That Carpenter. Or right. Is it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Carry on, sorry.
Then we have Sisu, Road to Revenge. You'll remember how much you enjoyed Sisu.
I really, really did.
Yeah. Well, he's still cross. And Wicked for Good, which is Wicked Part 2. Wicked, the second half. After an interval which lasted a year. Wicked for Good.
I have to say, if I wanted to avoid anyone who was cross, Sisu would probably be top of that list.
Yeah. Yeah. My favourite scene in the original Sisu is when he dispatched a Nazi by throwing a landmine at his head.
I think I need to see that again. Also, we have a special guest who is Alexander Skarsgård. It's that Alexander Skarsgård of the Skarsgård Vanguard. He's going to be talking about his new film, Pillion, which Mark will be reviewing on next week's program. Yeah. And what about In the Rocking Take Two?
In The Rocking Take Two, we have, again, two very, very different things. Testimony, which is a very moving documentary, and Pluribus, which is the new TV show by Vince Gilligan, starring Rhea Seehorn, which I've watched the first three. I imagine you've done the same thing, and very keen to talk about it.
Yes, and I'm sure we'll get lots of correspondence on Pluribus because it is one of those shows that people will be going, can we discuss this?
Yeah, we can.
Anyway, we can
and we shall.
Plus, all the other extra stuff, including details of all the best and worst films on TV over the weekend, further discussion on revenge movies in One Frame Back, and questions, schmestions, in which we answer the excellent question, are there any screenplays that were butchered so much from what could have been a really, really great film?
There are.
I look forward to Mark's answers on that one. Plus, let us remind you that the full video episodes are all available on YouTube, as well as the reviews and interviews. So head over and subscribe. And our extra show, Take Ultra, will be live streamed next week at 12:30 UK time and then available straight away to listen or watch.
So if you can't make what nobody is calling our naughty lunchtime treat, and I mean nobody is calling it that, then you can enjoy the whole thing later as a video episode on your usual fruit or non-fruit-based device as an audio podcast.
Last week's Take Ultra included everything you need to know about what's good on home streaming. We dug into October's box office performance of films like Tron Arse, I Swear, and Wombat Laughter Another. Is that right?
It is.
We discussed staggering casts in improbable films.
And we went dangerously below the line on our YouTube channel in our Points of View style feature, Hot Takes and Cold Comfort, in which the most stridently expressed opinions, it says here about me and Simon, but it's generally about me and sometimes actual films, are vividly brought to life through the miracle of modern dance and theatre by our tip-top production team.
With a variety of accents, which is very, very splendid.
A range of accents.
Yes, and they're going to be bringing in costumes in future. So I feel as though the phrase building their part up is going to be in play. We also spoke about our new Hall of Fame. The first category is UK Independent Cinema.
Fantastic.
So head to patreon.com/Kermode and Mayo. That's patreon.com. This is our Patreon page. But if I have to spell it out,
yes,
it's Patreon, which I have to, I think. It's patreon.com/Kermode and Mayo, all one word. Now, I don't know how it is.
I've noticed there is a line here that I probably should have said, but we were switching between scripts. If you haven't yet nominated your local independent cinema to be the first inductee, then head over there now and do that.
We're speaking on Wednesday morning. It is so dark here. I'm basically operating from the light of my laptop. That's how it is. I'm thinking of turning the lights on, but that would feel a little bit savage. I know that everything adjusts accordingly, but it is like broadcasting at midnight.
I'm in Cambridge, and it is a howling down with a storm, with the rain on the windows. Sounds like a drum, and we're marching for freedom today. That's what it sounds like. Marching for freedom today. Yeah, what's that song?
Is that a Coca-Cola ad?
No, it was. I think it was Neil Innes doing a Ruttles pastiche of Bob Dylan. Rain on a tin roof sounds like a drum, and we're marching for freedom today. I think that's right. I think I'm remembering that correctly.
Sounded terrible. Anyway, just here's another gratuitous plug for our Christmas movie spectacular, which is happening very, very shortly. Tell us more, Mark.
Yeah, so it's happening on December the 7th. It's at the Prince Edward Theatre in the West End of that London.
Tip-top guests, including Jason Isaacs, his very self, wandering around a fan convention in New Orleans. I know this is a live thing, but that sounds like a disaster waiting to happen.
It does.
But anyway.
It really does. We also have Grinda Child actually in person talking about Christmas Karma, which is her new film, a new adaptation of Christmas Carol.
And Nia DaCosta, director of Candyman, The Marvels, and Hedda, who is now helmed 28 Days Later, The Bone Temple. And an interview dripping with Christmas joy. Obviously, she'll be telling us all about what might happen to a feral doctor played by Ralph Fiennes who, spoiler alert, presented a son with his mother's polished skull and made him put it on top of a pile of other skulls in the last film. But as that was the poster, I think that's probably okay.
And I will be asking Nia DaCosta whether or not she missed the opportunity to use Jimmy Jimmy as the theme tune to that film. Plus, that's it. Deck the Halls. That's Sunday, the 7th of December at 2:00.
Head to fame.co.uk/take and grab all the tickets that you need. Yes, it's not that fame. It's fame. fane.co.uk/take. And you can get your tickets there. Jimmy. Ooh, by the Undertones. I think. Do you remember what the B-side was? I had it on green vinyl.
Oh,
which is very lovely.
No, what was the B-side?
I think the B-side of that is Mars Bars.
Oh, really?
So it was sort of banned from the radio just because it's a blatant plug for Mars, obviously. But the chorus goes, "Helps me, makes me work, rest, and play. Helps me, makes me work, rest, and play." So anyway, it's what B-side that we've lost the art form really of the B-side, which is always
really have
which was often better than the A-side.
Do you remember in the 1970s when Jasper Carrot had a hit with "Ooh Funky Moped"?
Yeah,
nobody bought that. Yeah, exactly. Nobody bought that record because of "Ooh Funky Moped." They bought it because of the B-side, which was the Magic Roundabout.
That's very good. I'm going to have to listen to both those sides in reverse order a little bit later on. Right. So if I can read this in the dark.
Okay.
Shall I put a light on?
Ooh, no, you've got all doctor's waiting room when you turn that light on.
No, that looks worse. Okay, I'm just going to struggle. I'm going to hold it up to the laptop. We were talking about text. You just threw in the text earlier. So some correspondence just showing off here about our listenership. Mm-hmm. The Reverend Paul Charles, now qualified to be a member of Priests Portico, says, I would like to suggest a reason or origin of the phrase Urtext. In German, the word means original text. But as Simon mentioned, is also a place in ancient Mesopotamia, or in the language of Genesis 11, verse 31, of the Chaldeans. This place is where Terah set off en route to Canaan with his family, one of whom was Abram. Terah did not make it to Canaan, but Abram did, got renamed Abraham, and the rest is, as they say, Jewish, Christian, and Islamic history. I have tried to trace the origin of the term Urtext in order to assert this with certainty, but the connections seem more than coincidental. The word is German, and given Germany has had more than its fair share of excellent biblical scholars and linguists, I would be genuinely surprised if Urtext does not find its origin in Terah and Abram leaving their home. Is thus Abraham's physical origin and almost certainly Urtext's linguistic one. However, Tom Burridge, BA Honours Politics and Sociology, University of Warwick. For balance, I did win several water polo medals in the Manchester Commonwealth Pool. Okay. Hi, gentleman and scholar. Probably one of the many, but I believe Urtext refers to the Sumerian city of and the Epic of Gilgamesh, which refers to a great flood, and is speculated what several other mythical great floods are based on, hence it being the founding text. Love the show, Steve, Tom Burridge. And then, just to confuse things further, Lucas in Bern in Switzerland. Bern. Dear Karma and Maestro, medium-term listener, first-time emailer, I felt compelled to comment on last week's discussion of the word Urtext. You stated correctly that Urtext is a text from which other texts are derived, but you wondered where it came from. The prefix which is UR, obviously, is pronounced someone like the OUR in Tur. So it's Urtext.
Urtext
means original or primal, similar to the prefix proto. It appears in words such as Urschrei, primal scream, or the German word for big bang, which is Urknall or Urknall, literally the original bang, and Urtext is therefore the original text. I know, then Lucas signs off wisely. I just wanted to clarify this so you can forget about it and we can discuss it again in 5 years' time. Listen, Lucas, we'll forget that in 5 minutes' time. But if you've spent all your life saying Urtext, you're not going to start saying our text, are you?
No, but it's like Urtext in the middle of Ur Street. So, it's...
Okay. I mean, I think that's quite enough of that kind of thing. But thank you very much indeed for caring that we get Urtext absolutely correct. Sorry, I'd have said Urtext rather than Urtext. Yeah. Correspondence at codeofmayo.com. Tell us about, let's talk about revenge.
Sisu, Road to Revenge. So you'll remember that the first one was this Finnish film John Murray Helander, who made Rare Exports, Big Game, and said Sisu is a Finnish word that cannot be translated. It means a white-knuckle form of courage and unimaginable determination. Sisu manifests itself when all hope is lost. And the original was set in Finnish Lapland 1944. Man, a few words. Aatami played by Jorma Tommila, maybe? Yeah, maybe 2 L's, maybe Tommila. Anyway, who's actually the brother-in-law of the director, as it turns out, has found gold. He's heading home. He also finds Nazis. The Nazis do not do well. And he survives being drowned, blown up, hanged, shot at. Impaled on a spike. There's a point when somebody says, do you really believe he's immortal? To which they reply, no, he just refuses to die. So that was basically the first film. As I said, there was a highlight in which he dispatched a Nazi by throwing a landmine at his head. And it was definitely a film that adhered to the Indiana Jones rule, which is it's okay to hate Nazis. This time, however, it's okay to hate the other side, to hate the Reds, or more precisely, the Soviets, whom Finland have been suspicious of for some time. So it's 1946. The man who refuses to die returns to Soviet-occupied Karelia, where his family have been butchered by Igor Dragunov, played by Stephen Lang, who is now...
He's got to sound like a baddie, hasn't he?
He's very bad. He's now in a Siberian prison. So our wordless anti-hero dismantles his home, puts all the wood from his home on a truck, and heads off on a double mission. One, to rebuild his home somewhere else, and secondly, to wreak vengeance on the people that did terrible to his family. Meanwhile, Igor Dragunov is being told in the prison, right, you've unleashed this terrible killing machine, go sort it out and go finish the job, which he tries to do. Here's a clip.
I think the legend has been homesick. Go on.
That's all you need.
That's
Definitely.
it. I mean, I love how much you enjoyed just the sound of it. Because
I think the legend has been homesick, and then the sound of him clearly dismembering a whole bunch of Russians.
Exactly. So apparently, 11 million euros. This is the most expensive Finnish film ever made. Although that is like saying the most exciting garden in Watford, isn't it? But anyway,
not a lot of money, is it?
No, I mean, but it looks fantastic. So the director has cited as inspirations Indiana Jones, James Bond, and Buster Keaton. And critics have cited Fury Road and John Wick. Fury Road because a lot of it is in a truck, and John Wick because any single object that he puts his hands on can be turned into a killing machine. I would actually say that the closest reference point is Evil Dead or Evil Dead 2, because Sam Raimi, when he was describing The Evil Dead, said it's not a horror movie, it's a slapstick comedy. It's a Three Stooges slapstick comedy with blood and guts standing in for custard pies. There's also quite a lot of sorcerer in as much as there is a big truck, only this time it's not the truck that's in danger of exploding, it's everything else around the truck that is in danger of exploding. And as with John Wick, you do get fantastically inventive uses. There is one bit in which Sisu fights a plane with a plank of wood.
Okay, fair enough.
With spectacular results.
What kind of wood is it? Is it hardwood or balsa wood?
It's the wood that his house was made out of. Because he's got the truck with the wood that his house was made of, that he will then use in various ways to fight everything. And there's another bit in which there's an interface between a missile and a train carriage that he rides like Wile E. Coyote in one of those. I mean, there is a real kind of animated cartoon craziness to it. The screening that I saw, it was first thing in the morning, and there was so much laughter. I mean, it was like much more than you'd get in your average alleged comedy. What you don't get is, I don't know whether you remember, but in the first film, the first time the first time the character starts to be indestructible, you're sort of surprised because he doesn't look like an indestructible person who can take on Humpty Thrumpty Nazis. Well, this time you just know he's never going to die. He's the man who refuses to die. So it's absolutely fine. So just start attempting to kill him and let me watch the inventive ways in which he throws that back in your face. There is, I mean, I keep mentioning the landmine scene because I just remember seeing that in the first film and guffawing just because it was so brilliantly preposterous. In the case of this, it's really inventive. The choreography of the insane slapstick violence is really, really, really creative. And considering, I mean, the interesting thing is the guy who's the lead guy who doesn't speak. He is a very respected theatre actor. He was the founder of a theatre company. He's got a very sort of respectable career. Now, probably best known as this guy who doesn't talk but just dispatches anyone who tries to deal with him. the fact that it's a 15 certificate, the certificate is exactly the same as the certificate on the original, which is 15 for strong, bloody violence, gore, and language, but crucially, not cruelty. So there's an awful lot of carnage and dismemberment, but there's very little pain. Although there is one scene in which our anti-hero is brutally tortured, which is quite painful, but you know it's going to stop, and then he's just going to kill everybody else. So if you enjoyed the first Sisu, and if you didn't, what's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. This is that, but turned up to 11. So in a way, the comparison would be with, like I said, with Evil Dead 2. It's bigger, slapstickier, and it is remarkable just how entertaining the choreography of the chaos is. And
I guess particularly in Finland, which, as we know, is the happiest country in the world, comes out. The idea of sort of fighting Russia is very real, absolutely front and center in all of their politics. They have that, as we've read many times, that the longest border with Russia, and they permanently live with the thought that they might come back. Yeah. So this probably feels a whole lot. I don't know. Does that make it less funny in Finland? I don't know.
I'll be honest with you. I think that the honest truth is that political context is not to the forefront. It is more nameless or effectively, bad person has done bad things, and now he is going to sort them out. Bring on the planes. I have a plank of wood.
Okay. So realpolitik is not what Sisu Road to Revenge is all about. Correspondence at kermode.com. Mark, what are you going to be doing next?
Well, next up, we're going to be doing, obviously we're going to be doing the box office top 10. We're going to be doing the Carpenter Son, and we're going to be reviewing Wicked for Good. But you are going to be speaking to your very special guest,
Alexander Skarsgård. And we also have the box office top 10, which Mark has already mentioned. And if I'd read ahead, I would have just chopped that bit out, but I didn't. So I haven't. And you didn't mention the laughter lift. I can't imagine why.
I was hoping that wasn't going to happen this week.
That is also on the way. Okay, here we go with the box office top 10. At number 11, Keeper.
Which, as I said, it's one of those things in which the title can be read in many different ways. Is my brother's keeper? Is somebody being kept? What does it mean? And from the beginning of it, you think it's going to be a sort of scary, it almost looks at the beginning like it can be some kind of weird torture porn movie, but actually it's an Osgood Perkins film that is very good at wrong-footing you. And it's at number 11, is it?
Yes, number 11.
Well, that's really not bad for a kind of, for a little independent horror movie which has got some very good ideas in its head and which is consistently surprising.
It's number 8 in America as well, so
fantastic.
It's even better there. Number 10 here and there, quirky, buzzy music playing, Begonia.
The more I think about Begonia, the more I think that I think it's really interesting. I think there are really good things in it. I do think it's my least favourite Yorgos Lanthimos film, but that is still a very high bar.
Number 9 in the UK, sugary saccharine music playing, A Paw Patrol Christmas.
Yeah, not to be confused with Pets on a Train, which I have seen. I haven't seen Paw Patrol Christmas, but I'd be very surprised if it wasn't exactly what you think it is.
Number 8 here, number 4 in America, Regretting You, regretful music playing.
Yeah. Well, don't regret having seen the film, but don't think I'll be rushing to do it again in any time soon.
Number 7, twinkly Santa music playing. Christmas Karma.
So this is the new film by Gurinder Chadha, who is coming on our spectacular Christmas live show, which is, Simon, we've said this already, but it's December.
It's very good, and it's going to be in London.
December the
7th.
December the 7th at...
in the afternoon.
In the afternoon at the Prince Edward Theatre in London's glittering West End.
Number 6 here, nowhere in Canada just yet, choral music playing because it's The Choral.
Which we had a really interesting email last week from a listener who said that they saw this on Remembrance Sunday.
Yes.
And it had completely transformed the experience of the film, which you might think is, it's okay, it's a little bit light, a little bit incidental, but because of when they had seen it, it had become something much more powerful. And it was an interesting discussion about it's not just what you bring to a film, it's when you bring it to a film.
Number 5, Jujutsu Kaisen, Execution.
Yeah, now I confess I didn't see this last week because last week we ended up reviewing 6 films and we just simply ran out of time. So this is an anime. I'll read to you what it says. For the first time on the big screen, the Shibuya incident, the greatest battle in Jujutsu Kaisen to date, will be presented in a special compilation format. It also presents the debut of the first 2 episodes of Season 3's upcoming arc, Culling Game Part 1, ahead of its blah, blah. Anyway, haven't seen it.
Okay. Number 4, thundering, portentous music playing, Nuremberg.
Yes, and I had gone into this, as I think you might have done, thinking Russell Crowe is Hermann Goering. I don't think so. And then I came out of it thinking, actually, that's a very fine performance by him. The film itself, it has some flaws. It is, it's quite theatrical in its nature. It's quite drama-y, particularly in the courtroom scenes. But an almost scene-stealing performance from Richard E. Grant. Rami Malek's pretty good as the psychiatrist around whom Hermann Goering is running circles. But the real surprise is I think that Russell Crowe is very good in the film. And as I said before, believe me, I've laughed at Russell Crowe with the best of them. But I think this is one of his better performances.
Colin Free on Patreon, just back from Nuremberg. But obviously it's not a travel thing. This is the movie thing. Does not reach the heights of Stanley Kramer's Judgment at Nuremberg, and I am not convinced about Rami Malek as a movie star. But the courtroom scenes were powerful, and Richard E. Grant steals the whole shebang.
There we go. And I hadn't seen that email, so how wonderful that we ended up saying the same thing.
Number 3 here, number 3 in America, Tom Jones music playing. Oh, no, that's for The Running Man. Sorry, I'll hold that back. Number 3 in the UK, number 3 over there as well. It's sort of a destructive animal, Rip You to Shreds. Rip You to Shreds by Blondie. That's playing. Predator Badlands.
I think technically that song is called Rip Her to Shreds by Blondie.
And I was just changing the title.
I know you were. I know you were. You could have done, who did the music for Badlands? Dun, 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 dun. Is it Carl Orff? Anyway, whatever. I had really liked Prey, and I think I really wanted something more like Prey. What you get, in fact, is this, which is CG-tastic, much more family-friendly. I have no problem with the idea of, the Predator is now the good guy, because, as I said, we were talking about Arnold Schwarzenegger and Terminator. Terminator goes from being the ultimate killing machine to being the ultimate father figure, and he just over the course of 2 movies. I was kind of disappointed by this, but other critics I know really enjoyed it. I just wanted the stripped down badness of Prey, which I just thought was terrific.
Now we get to The Running Man, Tom Jones music playing. New entry at number 2. It's also number 2 in America. David on Patreon. I saw The Running Man the night before it was released, and I'd been looking forward to it for some time. I love the original Arnie film. It's an absolute blast of cheesy goodness, and I was shocked when I went back to read the original King/Bachman book, because that was the name he was using at the time, to find out how far away from the source material they had moved. When the trailer came out for Edgar Wright's version, though, it was clear that they were doing a faithful adaptation of the book. And that is almost exactly what we get here. The film has Ben Richards meeting all the right people on his quest to escape. It hits all the beats of the book and is genuinely exciting and thrilling. And then the ending happened. Now, I don't want to go into Spoilerville here, but I really liked the ending in the book. I caveat this with the addition that I thought the recent Long Walk film, another adapted book from the same collection by King, was a great adaptation until they switched up the ending for no apparent reason. Unfortunately, they have done the same with Running Man, and the ending left me feeling a little deflated. It was almost like they'd filmed the whole book ending, then test screened it and were told to change it. In the end, what we get is a rushed Hollywood ending which jumps about and makes very little sense and kind of ruined the whole experience for me. I know we need to keep in mind that it's not the book, it's a movie, but such a swerve at the end left me feeling disappointed in a film that could have been brilliant if it had just stuck to the source material for 10 more minutes.
I think that it's fairly impressive that the film gets away with as much as it does, considering where we are and considering that it is, as we said, it is basically a dystopian portrayal of America in which the divide between the rich and the poor is huge, in which medicine is no longer properly available, in which the place is ruled over by an evil broadcast corporation who feed the public lies and propaganda. And all that is fine. And I do get the thing about the ending. Far as I understand, I don't think the ending was changed by test screenings. I think that was how the script was. I believe that to be the case. But the ending didn't spoil the film for me. And the more I think about the film, I said I've now seen it twice, the more I like it. Did you have a problem with the ending?
No, not really. I could see how it would go either way, and I'm quite happy with the walking along the beach. Using the varnish.
That's right.
On the boat.
Yeah.
That doesn't bother me.
One thing I should say is it's looking at the chart which we have here in the script. It's 2,383,000, and the number one is 2,384,000.
Oh,
yeah.
Heck, that was close.
Yeah, and in my mind, this is the number one movie. I did say to you, however, as I was reviewing the thing that is at number one, I said, it's rubbish. It'll be number one next week.
But it's only just the number one. But not that matters, because you're either the best-selling film or you're not. And that is number one here and number one in America. Now You See Me, Now You Don't.
And
Mohammed Shakir.
Wish I had.
Sorry.
No, that's it. Go ahead.
Mohammed Shakir says, doctors, BA Honours, swimming red certificate, and one-time winner of the TV quiz show Pointless, guessing the films of Lars von Trier. Thank you, Mark.
Wow.
I attended a double bill of the third in the Now You See Me franchise and The Running Man the past weekend.
Huh.
On the former, I went in with the Good Doctor's review where he said it will likely find an audience and it made him want to hit his head against a brick wall. I found only one of those things to be true. I was in a screen that was around 75 to 80% full with my children who were very into the film. The crowd I was with were engaged and laughed a fair few times. I find the films akin to the Fast and Furious franchise, where a group of street racers with heart go on missions. In the case of these films, substitute that with magicians. Whilst not the highest art form, I found the film passably entertaining and not difficult to follow because of everything being spelt out after each scene.
And explained in great detail.
The additional humour of Rosamund Pike committing to a role channeling her inner Jason Isaacs, hello to him, with a South African accent was funny in parts. The heists themselves were of no consequence, and the interplay between the characters was mildly charming at best. The Running Man was the far better film of the two, where it kept me on the edge of my seat and surpasses the 1987 adaptation with Arnie. All the best to the redactor and the fine production team. Thank you, Mohammed, for the email. So I guess if you go and see it with a bunch of kids, you're going to enjoy it more than if you go and see it with a bunch of critics.
Yeah, but it's also the Running Man certificate is, what is the Running Man certificate? Is it 15?
Must be a 15. I would
but the Running Man is playing to a more limited audience in as much as it's a more grown up film. So the fact that it's only been knocked off the top spot by whatever we think it is £1,000 is pretty impressive. I mean, I think The Running Man is a really interesting, good film, and it is. The Running Man is 15, and Now You See Me, Now You Don't. I imagine it's either a 12 or a P. Now You See Me, Now You Don't is a 12, yeah. So I think considering that pretty much anyone can go and see Now You See Me, and The Running Man is 15, I'm going to say in my head, The Running Man is number one.
Right. I mean, charts don't really work like that, but I understand the point. The ideological point that you're.
I love the fact that you nearly said, "I understand the bias," and then you stopped yourself.
Well, bias. There's also bias, but it's like looking at the top 10 in the hit parade and thinking, well, I know Johnny Bongos is at number one, but I'm going to pretend that Elvis is number one. So that's what I think is number one. Apologies to anyone who's actually called Johnny Bongos. You're going to be...
That's a very specific apology. Well done.
It is a personal one. Okay, back in just a moment with Mark.
Reviews of The Carpenter's Son, Wicked for Good, but more importantly, your special guest,
is Alexander Skarsgård after this. So in that brief interlude, we've established that there's certainly at least one Johnny Bongo singular who runs bingo classes. Well, not classes, events.
Johnny Bongo's bingo.
Yes. Also, no one is quite sure why Bingo the game is called Bingo, but the most likely scenario is that Bingo is an exclamation, like, oh, and then Bingo, and that went over to the game. There is some suggestion that it might have something to do with brandy, but
really,
I couldn't quite follow that line of thinking.
When you're doing, I've never played bingo. When you're doing it, and you get all the numbers, top of the house, 64, two fat ladies, 33, and then, but you don't shout bingo, do you? You shout house.
Yes, I think that's right, but maybe not at Bongo's Bingo. Maybe you shout
bingo bongo, bing bong,
or something like that. I don't know. We'll take bingo instructions.
Bingo's Bongo Bing Bong won the Eurovision Song Contest for Finland in 1974.
Wasn't that Tim Tim-a-Tom?
Tim Tim-a-Tom was ding dang a dong, boom bang a bong.
So, any bingo experts? We'll certainly take some tuition here. Correspondence kermode.com. This week's guest is Alexander Skarsgård, son of Stellan Skarsgård, served in the Swedish Navy, was in Zoolander, Generation Kill, True Blood, Melancholia, Big Little Lies, Long Shot, Godzilla vs. Kong, Passing, The Northman, which I think he was also producer of, Infinity Pool.
James!
Wait for Mark to shout. It's actually written down. Played tech mogul Lucas Matson in Succession, for which he was nominated for 2 Primetime Emmy Awards and a Golden Globe Award. And now he stars as a biker in the new film Pillion. You can hear from Mr. Skarsgård after this clip.
Gosh, you're tall. Sorry, Peggy. Peggy, Peter. Nice to meet you.
Right.
How do you do?
Time for a quick drink?
No, thank you. Not when I'm writing.
No, of course not. What was I thinking? Good lad, yeah. Well, something soft.
We better get going.
Yeah. You don't sound local, Ray. Where's home?
Chislehurst.
Chislehurst? Well, very nice.
I've never thought of Colin as a Chislehurst sort of person.
Nah, he'll survive. All right. Come on then, Colin.
And that is a clip from Pillion. I'm delighted to say they've been joined by one of its stars, Alexander Skarsgård. Hello, Alexander. How are you, sir?
I'm very good, Simon. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm in cold London. Where are you?
I'm in sunny Los Angeles.
Well, ain't that the treat then?
It's a real treat.
I feel very, very jealous. It's very good to speak to you. Introduce us to Pillion. Introduce us to your character, Ray, because there's lots to work at here.
Pillion is a dom-com about...
Hang on.
Colin.
Whoa, stop. Is that a new concept? Dom-com? I haven't heard that
I've really
before.
been plugging it lately, but it hasn't gotten any traction at all. I've been trying to coin this new term, this new phrase, but I'm getting zero traction, but I haven't given up quite yet.
What does it mean?
Well, it is a sub-dom relationship movie it's a movie about a sub-dom relationship, but with some classic rom-com tropes and elements in it. So I think it's a delicious hybrid of BDSM and rom-com.
Okay, so
classic dom-com, in other words.
A dom-com, exactly.
Yeah.
So just because this was initiation for me, doms and subs, can you just explain that, please? Forgive the naivety of the question, but just unpack that a bit.
Well, so Ray, my character, is a member of a biker gang, a gay biker gang, and spots Colin, played by Harry Melling, at a pub. And Harry is quite inexperienced. Hasn't really been in a relationship before. Ray, who is dominant, who likes having a submissive, is at the moment not in a relationship, but he spots Colin across the room and picks up Colin's energy and can feel that this is a potential sub for me. So he approaches and he's quite right about that. Colin is submissive, wants to get into this relationship. But it's also, again, Colin's first foray into this. So it's a discovery for him, a journey, for finding out, learning from Ray what the rules are, basically, what the parameters are of this relationship.
It was a journey for me too, Alexander, I have to say. So we had Harry Melling on the show a couple of months ago to talk about Harvest, which was his latest film, and he's fascinating to talk to.
Yeah.
So a lot of the film we spend with him and with his family. You see his father and his mother who is dying, and we see him in a barbershop quartet. So we know quite a lot about him. We don't really know much about Ray. What did you understand about Ray? Because he's very enigmatic.
Which I really enjoyed. And I really enjoyed the fact that at no point of the movie do you have the classic reveal or the moment where Colin discovers that Ray has a husband or a wife and kids. And there's no big climactic moment like that. And I really enjoy that because I feel like can sometimes be a trope in an artificial construct in a script. And I love the fact that, yeah, Ray is incredibly enigmatic. He is very private in his relationship with Colin and with other people in general. Obviously, I, in preparation, had some thoughts and ideas about Ray's past and who he is and what he wants out of a relationship. But I also noticed that I couldn't be too dogmatic about those ideas that I had or the image I had of Ray, because it also changed quite a bit as we were shooting the movie when I was working with Harry Melling, who is just a delightful human being and a terrific actor. And I discovered a lot about Ray during the process of shooting the film. And the challenge was to kind of try to instill enough life into Ray and for the audience to hopefully, if not root for them to be together, at least we didn't want them to be like, Ray is cold and abusive and please, Colin, get away from there. It was important to have the audience at least at times be invested in this relationship and root for them, because I feel like that the journey would be more interesting if the audience is invested in these guys.
There's a very, very awkward meal that you and Harry Melling's character have with Harry's parents. I mean, it's just it's painful. It's painful to be at that table with you guys. And there is a moment when Robin's mother, as I mentioned, is dying. So she is really concerned about her son's future. And she says to Ray, well, she calls him a very strong word, beginning with C, which I will not use for this podcast. But part of me thought, is she right? Because a parent concerned about their son might look at Ray and think, no, this is all wrong.
What I loved about the way Harry wrote that scene was the fact that I could, and hopefully people, when they watch the movie, can see both points of view. I could definitely sympathize with Peggy, Colin's mother, who is concerned. She's not judgmental, and she tries to be supportive of this relationship, but she also feels that her son might not be happy, and she's potentially right that at that point there might be something he's missing from this relationship. So I can, again, sympathize with that, but I also defend Ray. Ray doesn't want to be at that Sunday roast.
No, he does not.
He's, again, very, very private, believes in discretion, and says to Colin, I don't think this is a good idea. But Colin kind of convinces him and talks him into going to this thing. And Ray says to Peggy in the scene, like, it's not for you to like or not like. It's between us. We're two consenting adults in this relationship. And if Colin wants to be with me, then it's his prerogative. What do you think is relevant? And so I can, again, see both points of view. And that's what I think charges the scene and makes it interesting.
How close is it to an abusive relationship, do you think? Because when Colin has to ask for a day off, for example, it's maybe that's where the discomfort comes from.
Yeah, and we wanted it to be, it's based on a book called Box Hill, and in the book, it is more abusive. It's, especially in the beginning of the relationship, it's much darker, much more abusive, and we didn't want it. It was very important to start the relationship. Sometimes in subdom relationships, it's a written contract, so it's very clear, and we wanted to avoid that because it's for the audience more engaging, and if you're not sure what the rules are, and you're discovering with Colin what the rules are.
Yeah.
But it was also very important to have. There's a moment in the first hookup scene when Ray says, "What am I going to do with you?" and Colin answers, "Whatever you want," which is a verbal consent of saying, "I'm your submissive. You can do whatever you want with me."
The other Harry that you're mentioning is Harry Leighton, this is his debut feature. So when you got the script and you learnt that Harry Leighton hasn't made a movie before, but he wanted to make this movie with you, you agreed because what was it? Was it the script that just made you think, I want to be Ray? This sounds great fun.
Yeah, I was. I didn't know anything about Harry Leighton. He directed a couple of short films that I hadn't seen at the time. So when it came to me, it was a script by a first-time filmmaker. But I was just incredibly impressed by it and surprised by it, because when I started reading it and I heard that it was a movie about a BDSM relationship, I was really impressed by how sweet and tender it was, and how funny it was, and how awkward it was at times. And it wasn't shocking for the sake of shocking. It just felt grounded and real, and I believed in these characters, and I rooted for them. And then talking to Harry again, he was 30 years old when it was his first feature, but he just instilled a lot of confidence in me, in his vision for how he wanted to tell the story, and his thoughts on Ray and on the relationship. I really didn't hesitate after that first conversation. I really believed in him.
If you're trying to tell it as a dom-com, it's kind of a Christmas. Is it a Christmas film as well? It has some Christmas in it, Alexander.
Yeah, it's a classic Christmas dom-com.
Would you? I don't know whether you have big family Christmases back in Sweden. I don't know. Will you expect family feedback on this film?
Yeah, we do. I have a big family. I have 7 siblings, and we celebrate Christmas together. So it's usually 30 people in the house. So it's chaotic, and I am very. Dad has already seen the film, but I'm excited to show the rest of them.
What did he say? What did he say?
Well, he went up and kissed Harry Leighton on the mouth after the screening. So I think that's a good sign. Hopefully, but clearly he was quite turned on.
I need to, there's a thought. So I just need to say before we finish that I interviewed Peter Sarsgaard for the September 5 movie last year, which I loved very much, and he's terrific. And he said in the interview that he has given up in interviews saying that he's nothing to do with the Skarsgårds, because they all think that Peter Sarsgaard must be related to the Skarsgårds, even though his origin story is Danish and yours is Swedish. So he just says, yes, that's right. We're a fantastic family. I've got all these brothers. So he goes along with it. So if Peter Sarsgaard turns up at your family Christmas, now you know the reason why.
Yeah, we actually met I've never worked with Peter. I think he's a phenomenal actor, but we saw each other. We were at a dinner party in New York a couple of years ago, and that was the first time we met, and saw each other across the room, and just like walked up to each other and hugged and said, "Oh, brother, it's so good to finally meet you." Because but, I also get that a lot. Like, I just worked with your brother, Peter. He's terrific. So yeah, if not blood, but he's definitely family now.
Yeah. What do we see you in next, Alexander, after Pillion?
A movie called The Moment that I shot in London earlier this year with Charlie XCX. So that's coming up. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we've got to the point in the year where we finished the interview by wishing you a happy Christmas. It sounds as though yours is going to be a full-on family Christmas. So
it'll be very memorable. It'll be very memorable.
It will. Alexander, thank you so much for your time today.
Much appreciated, Simon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Alexander Skarsgård talking about Pillion. Always nice to speak to a top actor who I don't think I haven't spoken to him before. Have you interviewed Alexander Skarsgård before?
No, I haven't. I mean, I've admired him from a distance. I have seen Pillion. I should also point out that I haven't heard the interview that was just broadcast, because we are recording the show in the morning and you're doing the interview in the evening.
He's annoyingly in America, and Americans don't get up at this time, but they will get up a little bit later on.
Exactly. So how did it go, Simon? How was the interview?
Well, I found it satisfying.
Did you walk the full length of the counter? Did you discuss the intricacies of S&M authorship?
I hope not.
Did you talk about bikes? Was there a lot of talk about bikes?
Yes, my guess is that there was a lot about bikes and Your review will be next week.
Yes,
but
next
I am
week.
just going to put on record the fact that I have always disliked picnics. And as a result of watching this film, I have resolved to never, ever go on a picnic ever again.
Hot dog, sir?
That was unnecessary. Pillion will be reviewed next week, by which time I will also have heard the interview. Indeed, so will I, because I haven't actually conducted the interview yet. So Alexander Skarsgård talking to us this week. The movie will be reviewed next week. However, you can review The Carpenter's Son.
The Carpenter's Son, which is, well, how to describe it? If you go to the BBFC site, which I find is now the most brilliant way of starting almost anything, 15 for strong, bloody violence, injury, detail, and horror, and they call it a family. They say a family traveling through Roman Egypt is targeted by an evil entity in this biblical horror film. Now, I have to say, hats off to the BBFC, because their sort of thumbnail synopses are becoming real works of art. Not least because they correctly say a family, because names are in absentia, targeted by evil entity, biblical horror films. Is it a horror film? The tagline is "Deliver Us from Evil." It's written and directed by Lofty Nathan, who is Egyptian-born, London-raised, US-based. And it is based, according to what we say at the beginning, inspired by the infancy gospel of Thomas. Now, do you know the infancy gospel of Thomas?
No, would be the first line. Is the Gospel of Thomas, is that in the Apocrypha? Is that one of those?
The infancy gospel of Thomas is an Apocrypha, and I didn't know what it was either. I looked it up. Do you want to know what Wiki says?
Is it in the Apocrypha?
It is an apocryphal gospel about the child.
But does that make it in the Apocrypha?
I don't quite understand what the termination, how you define in the Apocrypha.
Well, there is a book which is included in some Bibles, which is
the Apocrypha.
It is the Apocrypha, which is all the somewhat disputed texts.
But isn't Revelations Apocrypha?
No.
Okay,
that's
fine.
in the Bible.
Okay, well,
that all definitely happened, all for real.
Oh, it did. Okay, fine.
Yes.
And then the beast
Word
with
for
9
word.
heads came out of the body of a worm.
Yeah, and the number of the beast was 666 and all that kind of stuff.
666 is the number of the beast. 664 is the bloke next door. Anyway, so the infancy gospel of Thomas, according to Wiki, apocryphal gospel, it says apocryphal gospel, so about the childhood of Jesus, probably dating mid to late 2nd century. Early Christian writers regarded the infancy gospel of Thomas as inauthentic and heretical. Eusebius called it heretical fiction in the 3rd book of his 4th century church history, and Pope Gelasius I included it in his list of heretical books in the 5th century. There is a sort of thumbnail synopsis of the gospel, which is fairly bonkers, includes a young Jesus bringing clay birds to life, and more alarmingly, cursing a boy who becomes a corpse, cursing another boy who falls dead, cursing his parents who become blind, resurrecting the 2 boys, healing the blind parents, resurrecting a friend who fell from a roof, and healing a man who's chopped his foot off with an axe. So, lots to work from.
Sisu, where are you?
Yes, exactly. Although it should be said that what's in the film bears only the most fleeting resemblance to any of the synopsis stuff I've read there. So what this does have is everyone's favourite screen crazy, Nicolas Cage. He is the Carpenter. FKA Twigs is the mother, who we meet at the beginning of the film in an act of very apparently violent childbirth, followed swiftly by escaping from babies being thrown onto a bonfire. So it sets its table out quite quickly. Cut ahead several years. Noah Jupe, I think it's Jupe, not Jupe, Jupe. Noah Jupe, who you may recognise from A Quiet Place and from Honey Boy. He's also in Hamnet. He is the now teenage son. So the son seems to have powers that he doesn't fully comprehend. He also doesn't understand the true nature of this strange girl who sort of befriends him with devilish consequences. Meanwhile, Nick Cage goes full horse po face in a manner that's suggesting that no matter what the origins of this is, he's taking it all very seriously. Here's a clip.
What awaits us when we turn at last to death? Let my faith endure. Faith. My only strength to bear against the devil itself. For years, we live in hiding, driven from every home. He bears a power he cannot understand, a power I cannot contain.
Is he my father?
You put that in your mind.
I've got the hair. I've got the teeth. I mean, it's something.
What does he look like when he's doing those lines? What's he?
Well, you've seen the poster. He looks like.
I haven't seen the poster.
He looks like bedraggled Joseph.
Oh, okay.
That's what he looks
like.
Well, the whole, as I said, the whole thing is it's all, no names, no pack drill.
It could be any family.
It could be any family, one of whom happens to be he's not the son of God. He's just a very naughty boy. So, look, it's an odd movie. Like Nick Cage's performance, it can't quite decide what it's trying to do. I mean, I love the fact that Nick Cage just does that accent. It just isn't, regardless. It's like, we're fine. We're just going to do that. And actually that kind of makes sense because it's like, okay, so you're not doing it in a foreign language. You're not doing the Mel Gibson, let's do Aramaic. You're doing, no, Nick Cage is going to talk like a surfer. But the problem with it is, I think that the film falls between several stools and ends up pleasing no one. So on the one hand, you've got the religious audience who flocked to see The Passion of the Christ. The Passion of the Christ was a biblical horror movie. Let's be absolutely clear about this. It was a torture porn movie that happened to be welded around the story of the crucifixion. And, the audiences went absolutely mad for it, partly because it was so extreme that people had a sort of very, very visceral reaction to it. In the case of this, as soon as it was announced what was happening, some of the religious groups were up in arms saying, oh, it's blasphemous because of its source and because of its casting and just because of everything, although there is nothing in the film that could sensibly be described as blasphemous by anybody. The other problem is that there isn't much else either. And whereas The Passion, regardless of what one thinks of The Passion of the Christ politically and all that kind of thing, it's a very, very good gore movie. I mean, it is grueling. It is like watching somebody be tortured for 2 hours in a way that is viscerally convincing. And I think it's a pretty well-made film. There are things that you can dislike about it, but it is a very effective torture horror movie. In the case of this, there are moments of horror, but they are interspersed with long bouts of reflective wandering around and arguing and suffering, and occasionally shouty, occasionally sort of bigger Nick Cage performances. It's at its best when it looks like it's about to turn into something really strange. And it's at its worst when it then turns into the thing that it is turning into, and you go, oh no, it's just that. It's just run-of-the-mill ooga booga. So if you were to be really charitable, you say, well, there's a coming-of-age movie in there. It's about a teenager who's got powers they don't understand, being awkward. I mean, that's a kind of, I suppose there's a Carrie connection there. But of course, the problem is it isn't about that. It is, as I said, based on the infancy gospel. And so therefore, we know it's not really about just an ordinary person facing adolescent problems. It's about the Son of God discovering that, he's got these powers. And the locations are very good. I mean, it's shot quite handsomely. It looks good, eye-catching. It's got an evocative use of music. The thing is, just considering the potential, it was far less exciting than I wanted to be. I mean, full pun intended, I'd love to be able to tell you that it nails it, but it is far less of a temptation than it sounds. Thank you very much. I'd like that on the poster.
Yeah, very good.
But here's the thing to remember.
Actually, can I just say before, here's the thing to remember. Deliver us from evil is a really good tagline.
It is a good tagline, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's a good tagline. My key thing is this. I'm very lukewarm about it. And remember, I am the target audience. I am the horror film fan who's very interested in church-going religion and a massive fan of Nick Cage. I'm the target audience. And I think if I was underwhelmed by it, I can't. I mean, horror fans are going to go, why are we just wandering around for a long time? When's the horror starting? And then when it starts, it's like, oh yeah, well, that's not really, because it's not really a horror film, and it's not really a biblical epic, and it's not really anything. It's, oh, okay. I just think it should have had a lot more bite to it.
Is there any music by the Carpenters in it?
Annoyingly, no. Nor indeed do they have Leonard Nimoy singing "If I Had a Hammer."
Well, I just think it sounds as though Jambalaya, Crawfish Pie, Philly Gumbo, sung by Karen Carpenter, would have worked quite well in some of the difficult scenes.
Or Superstar.
It's Yesterday Once More. We'll say goodbye to love. Boom.
And if you go to the cinema and you're the only person there, it would be Solitaire.
There you go. Non-stop Carpenter's comedy this week. Anyway,
I wasn't on top of the world when I came out.
I understand. We should probably draw a veil there. That's the Carpenter's son. Okay, and if our quips there weren't comedic enough, let's try elevating things a little bit further as we go up to our laughter lift. Okay, dodgy to start with. Hey, Mark.
Hey, Simon.
What have Monica Lewinsky and Donald Trump got in common?
I can't believe this is where the laughter lift is beginning.
That's right. Both of their first names have 6 letters in them. So changing the subject and moving on. Mark, I was just eating my healthy lunch yesterday when I realised cottage cheese is not, in fact, a cheese. It's just occurred to me.
It's good. Better. I've only just done the maths on the first joke, incidentally.
Yeah, I mean,
it turns out that Bubba isn't that Bubba, incidentally. So that joke is now out of date from the news story.
Okay. And hey, Mark, I'm not sure.
Simon.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you caught the news that a lovely new museum has opened in Cairo for all their ancient Egyptian treasures. Pride of place will be a mummy found encased in a thin wafer, thin shell. Okay, will be a mummy found encased in a thin wafer, thin shell filled. It's too much filling and too much thinness.
Go on.
A mummy found encased in a thin wafer, thin shell filled with hazelnut chocolate and chopped hazelnuts on a paper tray and covered in gold foil. He is Pharaoh Rocher. Thank you, but too much thinness. By the way, Mark, that reminds me, not everyone thinks Cleopatra is beautiful, but that's how Julius Caesar.
Hey!
Where do you think that last joke came from?
You. Oh, from Child 3.
No, Max Miller, a musical performer, 1894 to 1963. But that's good. Not everyone thinks Cleopatra is beautiful, but that's how Julius Caesar. Thank you very much.
Very good.
I can't wait to do this live at our special live show with lots of top jokes. Is that December the 7th? I
believe it is.
2:30.
Prince Edward Theatre.
Prince Edward Theatre. Tickets available. Thank you very much. More in a moment. Okay, we get to Wicked for Good in just a moment. A quick email here from Ian. Long-time listener, second-time emailer, the first being with regard to Clifford the Big Red Dog and the question of whether his bigness or his redness is the more disturbing attribute.
Yes.
So it seems I can only be motivated to correspond by red things. I'm firmly in Camp Kermode when it comes to disdain for Rotten Tomatoes and its role in the imperfection of online film discourse.
Good.
However, on a point of order,
yes.
Mark often cites the example of one critic loving a film
yes.
and another hating it,
yes.
producing an unrepresentative 3-star average as
yes.
proof of Rotten Tomatoes' flaw. But that is not quite accurate. Rotten Tomatoes doesn't average scores. It calculates the percentage of positive reviews. So 7 positive reviews out of 10 equals 70%. 46 out of 50 equals 92%, and so on.
Yeah.
In Mark's example, the film would score 50%, half liked it, which is actually more representative of a divisive film than a 3-star average. The real issue is that Rotten Tomatoes flattens nuance. 2 films could both score 90%, but one might average 7 out of 10, good, not great, while the other averages 9.5 out of 10, a masterpiece. Tomatoes treats them the same because it only cares about positive versus negative, not intensity. Personally, I'd rather watch an 80% film where fans rave than a 98% film with lukewarm positive reviews. So yes, let's keep bashing Rotten Tomatoes for its toxic influence, but let's be clear about what it is actually getting wrong. Keep up the great work. Sorry for the pedantry. So long and thanks for all the fish. Ian.
I appreciate the pedantry. and it's a good point, well made, but the end result is the same. It's just aggregating nonsense.
Correspondent at Kermode.com. There is a very big film which is out this week. You'll have heard about it.
Has anyone noticed?
I think so. It's kind of everywhere on all the posters and that kind of thing.
So, Wicked for Good, which is essentially the second act of the. Now, I confess, so I haven't seen the stage show, as I said before. It's the second act of the 2003 stage musical by Stephen Schwartz and Winnie Holtzman, which was itself inspired by a novel by Gregory Maguire. Again, let's start with the BBFC. The first film was PG for mild threat and discrimination and 160 minutes long. Second film is PG for mild threat, violence, innuendo, language, and 137 minutes long. What did I say? The first one was 160 minutes long. Did I say 160 or did I say 137? First one was 160. This is 137, but they're both PG.
Right.
So if you've been living in a bubble, this is the musical that follows the different lives of Elphaba, played by Cynthia Erivo, who will become the Wicked Witch of the West, and Galinda, played by Ariana Grande, who becomes Glinda. Also features Jonathan Bailey as Handsome Fierro, whose loyalties are torn, and Jeff Goldblum as Jeff Goldblum, demonstrating to us that he's basically been playing the Wizard of Oz all his life. We just didn't notice.
That's true.
And now, fine. Okay, there we are. That's the role. We also have Michelle Yeoh as the headmistress, who initially recognizes Elphaba's powers. So part 1 and part 2 were shot concurrently, directed by John M. Chu. Of course, he made Crazy Rich Asians. Part 1, again, everyone knows this, but just in case you've been living under a rock, opens with the declaration of the Wicked Witch's death, much jovial rejoicing about the fact that no one mourns the wicked who die alone. And Glinda is the kind of beaming MC. And then someone shouts, but hang on, weren't you friends with her? And then the whole film then goes back to the beginning and tells that story. We will revisit that beginning at the end of part 2. So part 1 ended with the show-stopping Defying Gravity. There was a thing that Schwartz said, we found it very difficult to get past Defying Gravity without a break because that song is specifically written to bring a curtain down. And that was a high note. I mean, the first film ended on the highest of high notes, and it was that. And it's worth saying that there isn't anything in the second film that will top that, but it's a little bit like the thing I always cite, which was Joseph Heller was once interviewed by a newspaper writer who said, the thing is, you'll never write anything better than Catch-22. And he replied, few people will. So I think that kind of applies here. So this picks up sometime after the first film. Elphaba is now outcast and is known as the Wicked Witch of the West. She is being painted as the scourge of the Emerald City. So she is now sort of fully been demonized. Glinda is now a happy, shiny celebrity, a supposed beacon of good, watched over and manipulated by Michelle Yeoh's character, and of course by the wizard himself, who is the sort of orchestrator behind all of this. Animals thoroughly subjugated, outcast in Oz. The population are being fed a diet of lies and propaganda. Wow, it sounds like The Running Man, propped up by these mythical incarnations of good versus evil, which are being used effectively to keep everybody on side. Here's a clip from the trailer.
You can wave that wand all you want, but you have no real power.
I'm a public figure now. People expect me to lie. Be encouraging.
You can't resist this.
Who could?
You know who could.
There's a house, and it's flying through the sky. I'm off to see the wizard.
Bring me the broom of the Wicked Witch of the West. So I have proof that she's dead.
Stop this. It's gone too far. Elphaba, they're coming for you.
So you heard a little bursts in there of no good deed goes unpunished, which actually is a real earworm banger. So look, I went into the first film really trepidatiously because I hadn't seen the stage. I knew that the stage musical was a big hit, but I went in with a heavy heart, also thinking about how long the film was, and I was just knocked out by how much I enjoyed it. I was really surprised, not least because it has genuine substance. amidst all the pizzazz and the earworm show tunes, because there's a lot of kind of quite radical things going on that are set up in the first film. There's the whole thing, people being rejected because they're different, the mistreatment of animals, which has got a very sort of Orwellian thing to it, the way in which the suppression of language is used to control people. And we even get the speech in which the wizard basically says, that you can bring a divided land together by giving people a scapegoat and the common enemy. And that strikes a particularly contemporary note, did back then when it came out a year ago and still does now. So the first film was long, but it flew by. This is shorter, although I have to say it doesn't feel shorter, crucially because it's darker. It's got into the sort of the far less jolly weeds of the scapegoating of Elphaba, the manipulation, the full-on manipulation of the wizard, who is now just 100% bad. I always was, but at the beginning you're not quite sure. And the generally kind of candy-coloured corruption of the land of Oz. Now, the thing with the first one was the vocals sounded great because they were recorded live. Apparently they used the same technique that they were using in Les Miserables, and we had a discussion on the show about that. That wasn't the first time that had been done. There had been other precedents for it. But the songs are good and they are performed brilliantly by fantastic singers. As I said, there isn't anything that's going to top Defying Gravity, but it's kind of like saying there's nothing that's going to top Sugar Baby Love in the Rubettes back catalogue. It's like, what are you going to do? The director has cited as influences Spielberg's Hook, although I think that's really just to do with the size of the sets. Just, we're going to do physical sets. I think that's all that is. But Pleasantville and The Truman Show, and I think those two things are quite telling, because what they tell you is that this is an artificial reality in Oz, that the place is, it's all happy plastic smiles. It's really to do with the difference between what you see and what's actually going on. And I said in the first film, it was a bit like kind of steampunk Metropolis meets MGM. This is much more in that kind of, everything is to do with artifice. And because on one level, it is a story about brainwashing. It is a story about corruption. And it is a story, particularly in this second act, about a witch hunt. And it's about how the public need to be given baddies in order that they can like the goodies. All this is quite expressly stated. And it's quite dark subject matter. Again, everything is handsomely shot, although, again, a lot less. There's a lot of pizzazz, there's a lot of stuff going on, but the whole tone is generally much darker than the first one. And I think the thing that you have to think about it is this is very much the second act. Nobody, I would imagine, very few people are going to go and see Wicked for good without having seen Wicked. Wicked is all over streaming services anyway. And if you are going to see Wicked for good, do watch Wicked again, just so you're up to speed. I know some people know the whole thing off by heart and they won't need to, but it seems foolish to see the second part without seeing the first part, because it'd be like walking into the theatre and seeing the second act of a show, which you can't really assess without the first, because I think that it is really one film. It is one continuous film in which the things that are set up in the first film have to be worked through in the second film. Now, the other thing about the second film, second act, is that it's got to do the slightly more complicated job of tying the narrative against the arrival of Dorothy in Oz. And so there are key beats that they have to hit in which you effectively see Dorothy and the friends from Wizard of Oz, from the story that we know, in circumstances that the narrative of Wicked is then contriving to refashion. So the arrival of the house landing on the witch, that why are we in the castle? There's a very funny bit about the building of Glinda's flying orb, which is meant to look magical, but is in fact a kind of steampunk thing that works with machinery. We even get the actual building of the yellow brick road, which Elphaba is trying to disrupt. It's like, it's like, remember when they were building that bypass and people were trying to stop them building the bypass? There's kind of that going on. There are also some very neat narrative twists. Anyone who's familiar with the Wicked narrative, which is most people in the world, not me, will know these already. But you kind of get origin stories of characters that you know from Wizard of Oz. There's one of which I didn't realize until the very, very end. And then Julie, my friend, the photographer, said, but of course you recognize from that shot when you saw them splayed out. And I went, oh no, I didn't realize that was how that was going to happen. So there were things that were tied up very, very neatly. So honestly, it's not the rip-roaring blast that the first film was, but then it is the second act, and it's not meant to be. And it is dealing with stuff which just is darker. And I think that as the second half of the overall arc, I think it works really, really well. I know that some people are a bit like, well, it's not as good as the first film, but I don't quite understand, because they are really the same thing. They are the two halves of the same story. And so having gone into the first film and thinking I'm not going to enjoy this, and then being knocked out by how much I enjoyed it, I went into the second film thinking, okay, I know that I like this, and then being slightly surprised by how much darker it was. But thinking about the two of them together, I think that they are a remarkable achievement. And I don't have any issue with the fact that this is darker, even for all the pizzazz and all the stuff that's going on. And believe me, there's plenty of stuff being thrown at the screen, but the underlying narrative is going to some darker places, and I think it does that pretty well. And like I said, I think that No Good Deed thing is an absolute banger, but it isn't Defying Gravity.
And if you are offered the opportunity, therefore, to see
the whole thing,
the first one, break for coffee, the second one, that sounds as though it's the complete thing, and that's the best way to see it, even though it's going to take 5 hours.
And I imagine that at places like the Prince Charles Theatre, the Prince Charles Cinema, that is going to be a standard. You know, you go in, you do the first one, all 160 minutes of it. You come out, you have a coffee break. You go in, you do the second one, 137 minutes of it. And I think that when seen together, the second one will seem more solidly corner pocket success than perhaps it does as a standalone.
When you've seen it, we'd love to know what you think. Correspondence at kermodeandmayo.com. We have time for a quick What's On. So here is Mike.
Hello, Simon and Mark. This is Mike from the Membrana Film Festival. Membrana is a Latin word for film, and we are very excited to dig deep into the roots of the magic that is filmmaking as we celebrate the very best in global independent cinema and its filmmakers. The event will be on November the 29th and 30th at the Cultplex Cinema in Manchester.
Oh, okay, that's it. Okay, that's minimalist, certainly, but well recorded. The idea that there's a Latin word for film makes me just pause on that, because they wouldn't have had such a thing. So how does that work out?
Yeah.
The Latin word for film. It's like, is there a Latin word for engine?
No, I mean, film as in, like the film of scum on a pond.
Oh, okay. Yes. So, and obviously membrane and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
it kind of makes sense.
Right. I kind of want more details now, don't I? Really,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah. And also maybe a little huzzah.
And we wish them, the Membrana Film Festival, all the very best. The Cultplex Cinema in Manchester. Mike, thank you very much indeed. Hope we haven't spoiled anything. That's the end of Take One. This has been a Sony Music Entertainment production. This week's take was Jem, Eric, Josh, Heather, and Dom. The redactor was Simon Poole. And if you're not following the pod already, please do so wherever you get your podcast. The Christmas live show, all the details, fane.co.uk/Kermode-Mayo. That's fane.co.uk/Kermode-Mayo. Come and join us on Patreon. There's lots of cool and groovy stuff, including Secret Film, which Mark takes sometimes. Mark, what is your film of the week, please?
Well, I think overall, my film of the week is Wicked Parts 1 and 2. But for the very specifics, I think my film of the week is Sisu, Road to Revenge.
Thank you very much indeed for listening. Correspondence at kermodeandmayo.com. There'll be another podcast which has landed alongside this one, which is called Take Two, and we'll be with you again very shortly.